Welcome to our tutorial about temporary tracking. I've got some geometry here in my drawing area. What I'm going to do is recreate this graphic using temporary tracking. I can't just redraw it so that it looks similar. What I need to know are 1. The location, and 2. The size of both the small circle and the small square, and I can do this with dimensions. Let's go to the Annotate tab. Left-click on Linear Dimension. Object Snap Mode is toggled on. Let's right-click on the toggle to see what's selected. I need Endpoint and Center. They are selected, so we're good. Let's select this point and this point. Drop the dimension about here. Let's increase the text size so we can read it. Click on the arrow to open the Dimension Style Manager, Modify. Let's go to the Text tab. And under Text Height, let's change to 0.4. Let's go to the Primary Units tab. We'll adjust the precision to 2 decimal places. Click OK, and click Close. Let's put the dimension on the correct layer now. Select the dimension, choose the layer that we're going to move it to, and Escape. Let's return to the Annotate tab. Place our second dimension. We'll select this point and this point. And now let's place the vertical dimension right here. Now we know the location of this vertex within the large square. Lastly, we need to know the length of one side of the square. This point, and let's drop the dimension about here. Now I'm going to copy the large square and just place it right beside it. With the square selected, let's go to Edit on the main menu, Copy. Now back to Edit and select Paste. We left-click in the drawing area to place the object. To find the coordinates of this location, I can just look in the status bar. Let's enter 25,5 and press Enter. One way to locate the top left vertex of the small square inside the larger square is to use some temporary geometry. Let's go to the Home tab. I can offset this square 2.5 units within, but let's try a different route. Let's activate the Explode command. You remember it's on the Modify panel. Now select our square. Right-click to finish the selection. Now I'm able to select individual lines. Press Escape to deselect. Activate the Offset tool. Offset distance 2.5 units. Enter. Now select the object to offset this line. And left-click in the direction of the offset. Again, the object, the direction of offset. Right-click and Enter to close the tool. Now we know the location of the top left vertex. Let's create a square. Use the Rectangle tool. Snap to intersection. And let's snap it here. Right-click, select Dimensions. We'll enter 2.5 units. Enter, and 2.5 again for the width. Enter. Now let's specify the position of the square. Let's select it and put it on the right layer. Escape to deselect. And let's select and delete the temporary geometry. And here we've created a copy of the small square inside the big square using temporary geometry. Let's delete the small square. I'll also delete the line on top so we can better see how temporary tracking works. Let's activate the Rectangle tool. Now type TK in the command line. And the command line prompts us to select the first tracking point. Let's make our selection, this endpoint. As you see, AutoCAD switched ortho mode on automatically. You may have an issue snapping the tracking line in the right direction. To solve this issue, just get a little bit closer to the tracking point. Let's enter our distance, 2.5 units. Enter. Next point, 2.5. Enter again. Now we're in the correct location. In the command line, we see that AutoCAD prompts us for the next point, or to press Enter to finish the tracking. Let's right-click and select Dimensions. Length 2.5, width 2.5. And Enter. Next, we need to specify the location of the square with a left click. Now I want to figure out the location and radius of this circle. Let's go back to the Annotate tab. I'm going to use the top right corner of the big square as my base point for measuring. Linear dimension, select my first point. And my second point is the center of the circle. Let's drop the dimension about here. I keep forgetting to switch layers, so let's select this dimension and let's move it to the correct layer. Back to the Annotate tab. Another linear dimension. Let's place our second dimension over here. Now we know the location of the center point of the circle. Lastly, a radius dimension, so we can determine the size of the circle. Place it about here. Let's return to the part layer. Let me toggle Dynamic Input on. Activate the Circle command. Instead of entering the coordinates for the center point, I'm going to type TK in the command line and then press Enter. AutoCAD prompts me for the first tracking point. I'm going to select this point, enter 5 units, enter, and 7.5 units for the second distance. Press Enter. Here is the location of the circle's center point. Right-click. Lastly, we specify the radius, 1 unit, and press Enter. And this concludes our tutorial about working with temporary tracking.